So my name is Mateusz Strawowski. I work for Canadem, and I was recently deployed to Ukraine in November and December of 2013 to analyze the participation of young people and women in 5 repeat elections held across that country. So in November 2013, Canadem deployed a mission of 26 Canadian election observers and 4 core team members to monitor repeat elections held in 5 districts across Ukraine. This mission was a follow-up to a much larger mission that Canadem organized in 2012 for the Ukraine's general parliamentary elections. And it was funded by the Department of Foreign Affairs, Trade and International Development of the Government of Canada. My role on the mission was to analyze and report on the participation of young people and women in that election, in addition to some operational and security responsibilities. So here at Canadem, what we are trying to do to contribute to a greater role for youth stakeholders in the creation of their democracies is to mainstream the participation of young people in election observation missions and integrate youth as a reporting and analytical category in election observation missions. With respect to Ukraine, certainly I would say quite proudly that Canadem became the second only signatory to the International Declaration of Standards and Principles for Election Observation to integrate young people as a reporting and analytical category. And it was a very appropriate kind of moment to do this during our mission to Ukraine in 2013 because that coincided with, as you know, public demonstrations in central Kiev, but also across the country, in which youth were very kind of important stakeholders, if not sort of critical coordinators. And certainly kind of following our mission, we've seen that those public demonstrations have prompted quite a dramatic transition within that country's sort of democratic status. And so we are sort of very proud and kind of seek to build upon the pilot or kind of experimentation that we undertook in integrating young people as participants, but also as a category of analysis and reporting in that election observation mission. Certainly in the case of the 5 districts that were undergoing repeat elections, I mean, in 2012, during the 2012 general parliamentary elections in Ukraine, the violations of electoral laws and kind of irregularities that were observed by Canadem, but also other international observation missions in these 5 districts were so significant that the Ukrainian Central Election Commission wasn't able to establish results. So that was one of the kind of principal reasons why we felt, and the Government of Canada felt, that it was important to kind of continue monitoring progress on the conduct of those repeat elections when they occurred in December 2013. Regrettably, we observed many of the same irregularities and violations as we did in 2012. Amongst others, I mean, the use of administrative or government resources to, let's say, benefit a single candidate or a particular candidate. We also saw a growing and more prominent kind of role, an obstructive role, being taken by technical parties, technical candidates, clone candidates. So what this means is, say you had a candidate who was expected to perform well based on their past kind of performance in elections. Suddenly that candidate would find competitors on the ballot that would have identical or very similar names, and which presumably had an effect of kind of splitting votes for that candidate. And these were sort of competitors that didn't necessarily have any prior political experience. So it really kind of draws questions as to tactics that are being used, perhaps not to, let's say, break electoral laws, but certainly kind of to undermine the spirit of laws that are meant to allow for kind of the Ukrainian population to vote in a manner that then translates into kind of the political representation that they're seeking. So in 2012, Mission Canada, or Canadem's International Election Observation Mission for general parliamentary elections in Ukraine, concluded that those elections did not meet the international standards and principles of free and fair elections. We didn't have the same sort of scope of analysis in this latest kind of mission to observe the repeat elections, given that we didn't have long-term observers. We were only there for the pre-immediate and election day period. However, we didn't observe anything to suggest that there was great improvement, unfortunately, over the 2012 situation. So our report for the mission that we conducted to observe repeat parliamentary elections in Ukraine in late December 2013 were meant to build the capacity and improve the technical administration of the country's next elections, which are now slated for May of 2014. From what we've been monitoring back here in Canada, the Central Election Commission of Ukraine has taken some steps and taken on some of those recommendations, which we are, pleased to kind of learn about. I mean, at the same time, we have observed in 2013 and in prior election observation missions that sometimes the letter of the law can be followed, but the spirit of the law can be undermined in a manner that obstructs a democratic outcome or sort of a transparent kind of translation of voters' kind of will and the political representation that emerges from elections. So I think it's very, very important that the international community continues to deploy election observers for upcoming elections. Now, building the capacity of democratic institutions, it's really important, and this is sort of an ongoing project in Ukraine and other countries. But the flip side of that, kind of the other side of the coin, is having a democratically conscious, engaged, and assertive population. You don't have that in every country, but Ukraine is certainly not in short supply of people who are passionate about their democratic future. And so that gives me cause for great optimism for the future of democracy in that country.